Hello guys and gals and welcome. So it is now currently Sunday, 19th, and I've had, I don't know, like 40 some odd hours to play the closed beta. I've managed to completely level up a barbarian, which I made a bleedbarian. Pretty cool looking bleedbarian. In fact, you know what, let me go back to my character select screen so I can show you all my cool characters that I've done so far. I have my bleedbarian, which he's really cool. He's got like his half a chainmail on over here. I focused him around bleed build, basically getting as much bleed damage as I possibly could, and I think he turned out pretty darn well. I also have Archahedron, which Archahedron, as you could probably tell by the word arc in her name, is specifically a lightning sorceress, and I spent a long time leveling her up. She focuses on chain lightning, ball lightning, so forth and so on, as well as the lightning spear ability, and she turned out rather interesting. And this is the one that I'm going to be leveling today, and I'm going to be focusing on the trap tree. I want to play around with the poison trap, the death trap, the caltrops, the smoke grenades, all that stuff, and I'm going to have fun with that. But today I wanted to give you my impressions on the game so far, after having played for, you know, frickin' like, until I almost died from a heart attack. So how do I like the game so far? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. My overall impressions of the game are good. I do enjoy quite a large bit about the game. Let's start with the bad, because I feel like starting with the bad is important, because I don't want the bad to overshadow the good, especially since the bad's not even really that bad. But there are some very small gripes that I have about the game so far. Number one, why can't I scroll out, like, bring the camera further from my character? Like, you can scroll in a little bit, and you can, like, make it so you can hardly see anything at all. But honestly, you can't even zoom in far enough to really see fine detail on your character, which makes it kind of odd that you can even zoom in at all. And then zooming out, there's, like, barely any zoom out. I would really appreciate it if they would let me zoom out further from my character, and this sentiment has been mirrored among many, many, many people in my stream, in my kinship, all of which have pretty much said the same exact thing, that we just don't have the ability to zoom out far enough, and I'm constantly wanting to zoom out. There's also another issue with the camera that seems to be when your character changes elevation, that he somehow seems to get closer to the camera. And I know maybe it's an optical illusion, maybe it's actually happening, but like, as you go up a mountain or you go up on top of a hill, like, it feels like the camera is getting closer to the character, and you instinctively go to zoom back out because you feel like your camera has zoomed in a little bit, and nothing happens, of course, because the camera won't zoom out any further, which is kind of a, you know, a thing. Another bad thing that I've encountered so far is that the dungeons are all kind of very samey. They all kind of have, like, the same map layout. It's a little weird that, like, all the dungeons kind of just... I don't, it's like there's not a lot of variation in the tile sets. And I really would like to see more variation in the tile sets. I mean, Diablo 2 has more variation in the tile sets than this game does. In Diablo 2, when you play in normal difficulty has very limited tile sets. I'm not sure if you've ever actually, like, played through normal difficulty and actually paid attention, but, like, when you go to Durance of Hate in normal difficulty, the tile set is very small, sometimes almost linear in its you know, simplicity. And the bad thing about this is that it makes for just, like, a very dull and almost kind of, like, boring sort of a... Yeah, sorry, my dog is back here just, like, ripping something to shreds. Cody, stop. It makes for, like, a very boring and, like, linear experience. And it's very short, too, which is also the issue. However, if in Diablo 2, when you go to Nightmare in Hell difficulty, all of a sudden the size of the dungeons is, like, vastly increased. The tile sets span out much further, and I'm sure that those of you who've played Diablo 2 know exactly what I'm talking about when you get to Hell difficulty, and the Durance of Hate level 2 is like the size of 8 football fields, and you can't find the entrance to save your life, and you're screaming and dying from dolls for the 15th time. Like there's a complexity that increases in Diablo 2 with the tile sets, and even though the tile sets are randomly generated and there's no actual human component behind the ones in Diablo 2, they feel much more vast and much more interesting, I guess just simply because of the sheer complexity of how they're put together. Whereas as I'm going through all of these many and varied dungeons all over the place, which by the way, there are tons. So you got a dungeon here, dungeon here. I mean, I'm just going to take a quick, like look through and show you that there's literally just like dungeons all over the place. Now, I feel like the word dungeon is a little overdone. When I say dungeon, MMO players think of something like a dungeon in an MMO. These are smaller than MMO dungeons, in my opinion. They're more like mini dungeons. And I don't particularly think that dungeon really quite qualifies what these are. They don't take very long at all. Like if an average dungeon in an MMO took you maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes to 30 minutes, these are taking you anywhere between 5 to 7, like to complete the entire dungeon. And they're not quite as fully fleshed out and as fully featured as like what I would consider to be a dungeon. In fact, I would dub them mini dungeons. Mini-me. Now, that's not to say they're not fun, and maybe their focus was to make shorter dungeons. Who knows? Maybe that's what their focus was. They wanted to make something that was smaller than a fully featured, full-size dungeon. But at the same time, I kind of wish there was fully featured, full-size dungeons, because some of these just feel really small. In fact, the weirdest thing is that there are these things in the game called strongholds. So strongholds appear around the map, and they're in various places. They usually are denoted by a big red skull-looking thing. You can convert them into like usable areas, like Nostrava right here is a stronghold. The stronghold battles actually feel more fully fleshed out than the dungeons do sometimes. Because there's multiple components. You've got to like solve little puzzles. You've got to go into houses. Like, honestly, the strongholds are better dungeons than the dungeons are. And that's saying a lot because the strongholds are out on the open world. Like this is an actual area in the open world. And the really cool thing about Nostrava was that after you completed Nostrava, there was a dungeon to go into. You unlocked one of the little mini dungeons at the end of completing the stronghold, and so it felt even bigger. It felt even more fleshed out because you found the stronghold, you did the dungeon, you did the stronghold, you rescued the city, then a dungeon appeared before you. You did the dungeon, and it felt more like a fully fleshed out dungeon than the little mini dungeons do on their own. Number 3? We're on to number 3 now. This is issues. We're still on bad things. So, another bad thing is the grouping system. You can group up into groups of 4, which means that those players will be on the same layer. So basically how the game works is there's like hundreds of different layers, and everybody has their own specific layer. And this basically means that you can't see other people that are not on your layer. Well, we had the world boss, which spawned down here, by the way, in the Crucible, a big giant frozen lake. And we had a lot of trouble forming groups specifically for Ashava. The 4-man system works just fine. You can pull in 3 other people into your instance, your layer, whatever you want to call it. And this allows you to, play together with those 3 other people. But Ashava was a battle that required 12 people. So, we have a clan. We got a whole clan right here with tons of people in it. We're trying to gather together all of our people within the clan and, bring them to bear on Ashava. And there is absolutely no way to form an alliance We couldn't actually form an alliance to fight a Shava. So only 4 of us at any given time, for the most part, could fight a Shava together. And then we were grouped together with a whole bunch of randos. That's what I like to call people that just randomly show up and help you with stuff. And the randos were sometimes helpful and sometimes not. One of the times we were trying to do a Shava, we're literally sitting there trying to do a Shava, and there's like, you need to be around like at least level like 21, 22 to do a Shava, and not like die horribly in painful, bloody, blood-curdling screams. And we're like trying to do a Shava with a maximum of 12 characters, and there's like level 10s and level 15s and level 14s like there, and they're just all doing basically nothing and just dying over and over again. And there's a timer on the world boss, so like all of this dead weight that we can't get rid of, that we can't like make an alliance and actually like fight the boss. All the dead weight makes it so that you can't even kill her, because they put a timer on a Shava. So, and this is bad point number 4, is that the world boss is really freaking weird. It was fun fighting the world boss, don't get me wrong. But number 1, why is there a timer on the world boss? There shouldn't be a timer. World bosses are supposed to be something that roam around the world at random times, and they stay up until they're dead. They stay up until they're killed. There shouldn't be a timer on the world boss. Number 2, if you're going to put a timer on the world boss, which I don't necessarily think is entirely terrible, but if you're going to put a timer on the world boss, then you're making it into a race. Okay? And if you're making it into a race, don't tie my leg to the nearest level 10 character who's going to slow me down infinitely. Because that's basically what they did. They made it so that you couldn't form teams. They made it into a DPS race to kill a Shava, and then they shoved in a whole bunch of low levels with us for no apparent reason, so that we literally couldn't even beat the DPS race, because you need all 12 people to actually be doing something to beat it before the time runs out. And half the time we were literally like 6 or 7 men down, because like everybody in the group was just either like too weak or dead all the time, or even AFK. So you couldn't actually put together a competent team to fight the boss. Issue number 5. I don't know if I really want to call this an issue, but like it really seems very difficult to earn gold. And gold is used for like everything, and I don't know if they just haven't balanced the game properly or what, but like all the prices of everything is really high to do any action, to imbue an item, to create gems, to you know, from everything from just like repairing your equipment to like you know, like imbuing an item or ripping off an imbuement. All of it costs so much gold. And you literally find yourself in a situation where you just never have enough gold. Ever. Like, you're literally, like, there's a salvage shop. So you can take your items to a salvage shop and you can salvage them. Which is usually what you would do in a game like this, is you would take your trash and you would bring them over to the, you know, the blacksmith. And then your first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take all the crap that you picked up in a dungeon, and you know, you're going to go through it, make sure there's nothing good in there, and then you're going to you know, just get rid of it all, right? No. Salvaging items is no. Don't do that. Because then if you salvage all your items, if you salvage everything that you get from the dungeon, you've got no gold to do anything with. You can't repair your items, you can't pull off legendary effects, you can't add legendary effects, you can't upgrade items, you can't do anything. So like, you end up having to take all these items that you get from the dungeons and sell them to the NPC, because you literally just like don't have enough gold for anything. And I'm not sure if it's just some sort of like balancing equation issue, or maybe they're just deliberately making the gold extremely rare. Maybe they want the gold to actually be a tradable resource or have some actual importance within the game. But it definitely does seem like there's just not enough gold to go around in the game, like, ever. You're constantly, like, just burning gold. Like, just never-endingly. Trying to think if there's any more bad things that I can think of off the top of my head. I think that's pretty much it for the bad things, which is actually pretty surprising. Now, the ugly. The game uses a lot of memory. This is something that's very important, and I went over this in my, can your PC run this, like back in before the game launched. And I wanted to show people that the game really does burn lots of memory. This is a freshly rebooted, running the game and my streaming software at the same time, and I'm at 19.1 gigs. I call this the ugly because it's not exactly like the worst thing in the world to have an issue where the game is sucking up a lot of RAM. However, if you're only running 16 gigabytes of RAM, you may want to consider upgrading, because I have had people tell me that the game has been sucking up as much as 17 gigs by itself. No other applications included. So 32 gigabytes may be a good upgrade target. And while you're upgrading, who knows, maybe 64 gigabytes might be just a future-proofing option. Now, granted, there could be some sort of memory leak, there could be an issue, but you never want to be in a position where you're using more than your available memory, because that's when things get really bad. So just be aware that as of right now, I have had people report to me that the game has been using upwards of 17 gigs by itself. And after a fresh reboot, after a closing of the game, after, like doing your little updates and maybe even updating your drivers and then coming back, the game would still use like 9 or 10 gigabytes by itself, even after a fresh reboot and a fresh, run of the game. That's, pre-memory leak, basically. I'm currently on pre-memory leak right now because my game has just launched. So if I take a look at the game under details and I go to Diablo 4, you can see how much my game is currently eating. So it's currently eating 6.45 gigabytes on its own. And that's pre-memory issues. Or, I haven't really done anything yet. I haven't done any dungeons. I haven't done any world bosses. I've done nothing. So it's burning almost 6.5 gigabytes just freshly launched. What else is the ugly? I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. There's a lot to do on the map. And, like, these little statues are pretty cool. But in general, like, as you're running around the map, it definitely feels like there's always something to do nearby. The strongholds are very fun. I definitely like doing the strongholds. The Lilith statues are fun to find. As you can see, I have all my Lilith statues right now. I've got 28 out of 28 Lilith statues. They're permanent upgrades, and they're a lot like Korok seeds from Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild had these little Korok seeds that you could collect all over the map. Well, they're actually, kind of cool because they're permanent upgrades for your character. So finding them actually has a real and honest, genuine reward. So it's definitely something that you want to do. You want to go around, you want to find all of the little statues, and you want to click on them. And it's fun to find them because some of them are very well hidden. You can, of course, also just look up a map online and cheat, but either way. The strongholds, the ugly about the strongholds is once you convert them, as fun as they were, you really can't redo them, which does kind of suck. If you join one of your friends that hasn't done it yet, you can relive it through him, basically, which is what I've done for a couple of these. So, like, I've done Nostrava like 3 or 4 times, but it's only because there's other people that haven't done it yet. And it's interesting to redo them. There are some very fun events that occur. Like up here, this particular place, Core Dragon has a very interesting event that occurs. It's more of a special event. All these little spaghetti with meatballs that pop up all over the place, and you gotta destroy them, and then you clear out the village, and then you rescue it, but it seems to come back, like grows back like a plague or whatever. That's pretty cool. The story is very nice. We really haven't been told much, but there's been a lot of very pretty things that they've shown us. There's this temple up here that you can go to that Inarius actually is in. and you actually get to see Inarius. He talks to you. He's kind of a dick, but you get to see Lilith. You get to see all these people, and then the story. Honestly, the story is very rich, and if you actually take the time to listen and talk to people, it's very cool. Another very cool and very good thing is that inside the villages, sometimes you will just find these random little interactable pieces that will lead you to something very interesting if you pay attention. Hidden things, so to speak. So as you're running along, you may find a signpost or a little trading board, and there'll be a riddle on it. And the riddle will actually lead you to like an actual like unique monster, like a super unique monster from like Diablo 2, and you can fight that super unique monster, and they have very specific things that they can drop. So like one in particular talked about a specific monster that was apparently terrorizing the countryside, and it told you kind of like roundabout where they were, and you go there and you find this freaking ridiculously strong monster. It's like level 35 in a level 25 zone. And, you know, he kicks your butt, you know, and if you keep at it, you can kill him, and he drops, like, a very specific item, like a unique item, which I thought was pretty cool. The ambiance of the game. I would definitely say the ambiance of the game is another good point. So, like, for instance, I've never liked Diablo 3's, like, the way that it looks. Diablo 3 looked like garbage to me. It looked like some dog vomited on a piece of paper, and then somebody brought the piece of paper over to me and tried to hand it to me as a work of art, and I slap it out of their hand. I do not like the way that Diablo 3 looked, and I am so happy that this does not look or feel like Diablo 3 in just about any way. I've even had some people who love Diablo 3. Okay, these are people that I don't want my friend to be my friend because they like Diablo 3. Like, if you like Diablo 3, I don't want you as my friend. And they come in and they're like, the game doesn't feel enough like Diablo 3. It feels too much like Diablo 2. And you know what? That is a very good sign, in my opinion. That is an extremely good sign, because when you have somebody who hates Diablo 2 who comes in and literally tells you that the game doesn't feel enough like Diablo 3 and it feels too much like the game they don't like, that is a good sign, in my opinion, because the guy who loves Diablo 3 is upset, and that pleases me greatly. So when it comes to this game, it definitely does not like give off the Diablo 3 vibes like the other games do. Does it still have similarities to a Diablo 3 game? Yes, it does have similarities. There are some shared monsters. There are some abilities that they use, like the walling ability. And there are things that have definitely been taken from Diablo 3, most notably of which I actually think is one of the more stupid things that they took from Diablo 3, is the cellars. So as you're running along, you'll just randomly find these little cellars to go in, and they're absolutely boring, like little things. There's like 5 monsters in them, and it's straight up something that comes from Diablo 3. Those stupid little cellars that you'd see all over the place in Diablo 3, like that is straight up the Diablo 3 crap. And you can go in the cellars and you can kill the monsters that are in there, but like there's really like nothing in there. You literally walk in the door, there's like one room, you kill everything in the room and you leave, and that's it. Like there's absolutely nothing to it. There's no cool little thing to read. There's no like sweet like unique graphics in there. Like the cellars honestly kind of detract from the game as a whole, in my opinion, and the game would probably be better off without them, unless they want to like actually expand the cellars in a way that makes them more than just, you know, like a random monster in a box. Like if you've played Diablo 2, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Evil urns. That's basically what cellars are. They're evil urns. But they're evil urns that you have to load into, which is weird. So, like, an evil urn, you know, you click on it in Diablo 2, monsters pop out, right? And you get to kill the monsters. Well, the cellars are basically the same thing, but you have to go and you have to load into the zone, and then you have to walk down the steps, and then you have to walk into the room, and there's your monsters in the room. And then you gotta walk out of the room, and then you gotta go back to the door, and you gotta load out of the area. And it just seems really weird to basically take the evil urn mechanic and turn it into 2 load screens. Honestly, they would be better off just doing 3 load screens. Or just put the evil urns back. Like, take the cellars away and put the evil urns back. Like, everywhere that you have a cellar where there's not like an actual quest in it or something, just take take the cellar away and just put an evil urn in its place. Click on the evil urn, monsters pop out, kill them, profit. Like, people love the evil urns. I love the evil urns. Like, I think the evil urns are a great mechanic. I would always click on the evil urns. Sometimes the evil urns would get me killed, and I'm fine with that. And speaking of dying, the game has some very visceral difficulty. You will come across monsters in this game, and I consider this a good point, by the way. You will come across monsters that will kill you. They will hand you your butt. They will pick up your butt cheek. They will rip it off, and they will hand your butt cheek to you, and you're like, oh, thank you for my butt cheek, sir. And you just, like, squish it back on and go about your day. I have come across so many monsters that literally I'm, like, barely surviving, and I will call my friends over. I'm in a 4-man group, and I'm like, come give me a hand. This monster's killing me. And they're like, we're on our way. And I go over there, and they come over there, and we're fighting the monster, and we think we've got something. You know, we think we're tough because we're all 4 of us now is together versus this monster. And the monster just goes, blah, and we're all dead. Every single one of us at the same time. And we're just like, oh, okay. And I really enjoy this. In Diablo 3, and I know that Diablo 3 is going to be a heavy comparison for the game as a general rule. In Diablo 3, I rarely, if ever, felt challenged by any monster that I fought. Unless I was, like, in, like, 3 torments higher than what I was supposed to be at that particular moment. Like, I just wasn't outfitted properly for the torment level or the grift that I was in. I never felt challenged by any monsters in Diablo 3. And there was not any time at all that I ever found a monster in Diablo 3 and was like, wow, this monster is literally kicking my butt, and there's nothing I can do about it. No. And this is the thing about this game that has really impressed me, is that there are monsters in this game that you're going to come across, and they're just going to absolutely demolish you. Now, granted, we're still in Act 1, and we're only level 25, and I haven't gotten, you know, to the end game and decked out my character with all the amazing equipment and stuff, but I have put in the hours, and that's my conclusion so far, is there are actually monsters in this game that will hand you your butt. And I'm not even talking about, like, really difficult monsters, like the super named elites that you know, that have, like, multiple enchantment effects and they have massive HP and stuff. I'm talking about, like, sometimes you'll just be running along in the random overworld and you'll come across a monster that just has just the right enchantments, and he will just, like, absolutely pop you, like, right across the face, and you're just, like, shocked because you're dead on the floor and you're like, I don't even know what the hell just happened. And I like that, because that's the same thing that happens in Diablo 2. Diablo 2 is great. It's a fun game that you can play, and your character can be overpowered. And no matter how overpowered your character is in Diablo 2, you can always come across a monster that will just, like, literally just... And you're like, I don't even know what just happened. You're like, I literally just walked out here. I was just minding my own business. My buffs were up and everything. And then all of a sudden I was dead. And your friends are like, what do you mean? What killed you? And they start laughing at you, right? And they're like, oh man, you died. You're a noob. And then they're like, we'll help you get your body back. And then they go die trying to help you get your body back because the monster freaking knuckle punches them in the eye too. And it's freaking great. I love that kind of freaking gameplay. And that is exactly how a game should be. Combat wise, like, as far as besides, you know, just the fact that monsters are dangerous and deadly, I really do enjoy the combat, especially the barbarian. The Diablo 2 barbarian was never my favorite. But this barbarian is a lot more fun to play than the Diablo 2 barbarian. And he's still very, very similar to the Diablo 2 barbarian. He has many of the same abilities, and the gameplay is very fun on this character. I haven't had a chance, obviously, to play the Necromancer and the Druid yet, and I would like to eventually, but it's neither here nor there. The skill system, I'm going to say, is a big thumbs up for me. Okay, so this is another big positive for the game, and what I want to say about the skill system is that it feels like, to me, that you can build a character the way you want to build a character, and you can make it work. If you come in here with a decision So you just simply say to yourself, I would like to make a rogue that uses bows and weapons at the same time, and maybe like, or maybe I want to make a barbarian that, you know, like runs around and whirlwinds everything, or like I want to make a barbarian that makes everything bleed, or there seems to always be a way that you can make your idea up here into reality on this. And that is a very, very good thing, in my opinion, because what that means is that it will open up into theory crafts, tons and tons of different theory crafts and ways that you can build characters and design them. There are tons of ways that you can like augment a character with different abilities. With this particular character, I went in with one idea and I came out on the other side with a different idea. I ended up when I first started, I was going to use Rupture. And then eventually, through playing around with the character, I actually really tended to like the skill Rend, and I started to use Rend a lot more than Rupture. I started out with Whirlwind, and as good as Whirlwind was, it didn't fit my build, and so I started going into other things besides that. I didn't really have like huge issues with defensive capability, and I did die quite a few times, but I was generally okay with being a glass cannon. But Ashava pimp slapped me in the eye quite a few times and taught me the lesson that I needed some sort of barrier, some sort of ability to save myself if there was trouble. And so I started to gain Iron Skin. And unlike in Diablo 3, where you transform into a hulking brute and suddenly you're invincible and you're 3 times the size of what you're supposed to be, and like it's almost comical, like Captain Planet just popped out of a bunch of rings. Like, unlike Diablo 3, these defensive cooldowns and skills actually seem much more realistic. They seem much more toned down and not like in the very same way that Diablo 3 did their defensive mechanics. They're closer to Diablo 2. But which game, in my opinion, does Diablo 4 most resemble out of Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and Diablo 3? You're going to laugh at me, because my opinion is it most closely resembles Diablo 1. And some people have actually said ew when I said this, but Diablo 1 is a very simple game that requires you to like manage your approach to battle differently than Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 did. Diablo 1 was very much so a game where you had to use choke points, where a single monster could often absolutely annihilate you if you weren't paying attention. The ambiance of Diablo 1, the sound effects of Diablo 1, like this game most, in my opinion, resembles Diablo 1, and I've put in a lot of hours on all the Diablo games. I have played possibly 3,000 or 4,000 hours in Diablo 3. I've played, I don't even know, countless numbers of hours in Diablo 2, and I've easily put in over 3,000 or 4,000 in Diablo 1 as well. So when I say that it seems and resembles the most like Diablo 1, trust me, it really does. And I like that. I absolutely like that it has a very similar combat feeling to Diablo 1. I'm very impressed with what they've got here. I do feel like they need to make some changes. Let me zoom out, as I said earlier in the video. They need to fix the party system so that we can make alliances. The dungeons, they need to... I know that they seem to have this goal of like putting dungeons everywhere, but these little mini dungeons need to be a little bit more fleshed out. They need to be meatier. Right now, like, you know, it's just a bone. It's like a bone with no meat on it. And you like put like a couple bones with no meat on a plate and you hand it to somebody and they're like, oh, thank you. Guess I'll just suck the marrow out of them. Like, you know, we want some steak and potatoes, and these are not steak and potatoes. Maybe there's some potatoes and it's like a bone. Like they're very limited. The story. So let's talk about the story for a second, and I'm going to do so without any spoilers. The story lets you breathe. So in a lot of games, they throw the story at you so fast, and like you don't have a chance to absorb anything. You don't have a chance to actually enjoy the story. This Diablo definitely is letting you enjoy the story. It's letting it breathe. It's giving you time to soak it in and understand what's going on and actually enjoy it. As opposed to, like, in Diablo 3, I always felt like the game was rushing me along to the next cutscene. It was always, like, trying to force me to the next encounter, and it was trying to do it quick, quick, quick. It's like, come on, let's go, let's talk to Cain, come on, Cain's dead with a butterfly, come on, Diablo has boobies, come on. Diablo, yep, Diablo broke Purius' weapon, come on, let's go. No, this game actually seems to be, like, letting you enjoy the story, which I think is really cool. Graphically, I do like the graphics overall. I definitely do enjoy it. The everything, even down to the like character outfits, I think they're pretty cool. I really enjoy the rare system. So those of you who are old like me, raise your hand. I'm just kidding. Those of you who are old like me, you remember when Diablo 2 didn't have rune words, when Diablo 2 didn't have the advanced uniques. And what was the number uno king item in the game? What was the thing that you always searched for in Diablo 2 Classic? It was rares. Rares were the king. And I remember, and I love that time from Diablo 2 Classic. I always thought it was amazing, you know, going and finding a rare, and then you identify the rare, and it could be the most godlike rare that ever existed. And rares are very powerful in this game. In Diablo 3, it seemed like these items, the legendary items, were the most important things in the world. But in Diablo 4, legendaries are practically garbage. And I'm not trying to say that to be mean, because I know some of you probably found a really cool legendary and you're excited. But legendaries are practically garbage in this game. The legendary effect is not, but the legendaries themselves are basically garbage. So the way that the system works in this game, which is what I like so much about it, is that being able to transfer a legendary effect to the rares has effectively created the hunt for the perfect rare. So what you do is you find these godlike rare items that have just the right stats that you want. You then take the legendary item and you rip that legendary effect off the item. Then you take that legendary effect and you put it on your godlike rare. And this makes it so that the rare items are actually surprisingly valuable and poignant to beefing up your character. I was commenting to my brother. I said, he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm in the shop." I said, "I'm selling off my my rares." I said, "I got to go through every single one to make sure there's nothing good in here." And he's like, "Oh, I'm doing the same thing." And I said, "Isn't it really cool that unlike in Diablo 3, where the rares were basically garbage and nobody even looked at them past a certain point, that unlike in Diablo 3, here I am going through every single rare item that I find. And I'm trying to determine whether or not this rare item is better than the base of the rare item that I'm currently using." And so basically, it has turned the rare items into actually something valuable, which I freaking love. And by the way, you can trade rare items. All rare items are tradable. So if you find a really awesome rare ring with like just the right effects on it, for your friend, you can give it to your friend and he can actually be excited about it, which is freaking amazing. As far as I'm concerned, they need to make the legendary effects tradable too, because at this point, with the rares being so valuable like this, with the individual effects on the rares being so purposeful, and you searching for very specific rares, the legendary effects aren't even that important. We obviously, we're not in Act 2, we're not at Act 3, we're not at Act 4 yet, so whatever. We don't know if there's a Herodric Cube. I'm just going to say this just in case. I want a Herodric Cube, okay? I want a cube in my inventory. Give me a Herodric Cube. We were talking about this earlier, and I know there's all these little shops in here. I know we've got like all these little shops and things, and you can go do specific tasks in these shops. But like, take Minecraft, for instance. Minecraft, the old Minecraft uses the crafting window, and you put things in the crafting window, and you make stuff, right? Well, the new version of Minecraft has a menu system, and you can choose from the menu system, right? But in the new version of Minecraft, they didn't remove the crafting table. You can still do it the old way. Just let us do both. Just give us a Herodric cube so that we can put it in our inventory, and if we want to take our 3 chip gems and put it in our Herodric cube and transmute them, as opposed to, you know, going over to the vendor and doing the same exact thing at the vendor, like we can do either one. Just if we want to do it the manual way, just let us do it the manual way. It's just an extra step that we can do, and I know that I don't actually know if there's a Herodric cube in the game yet, but just saying that as a for instance, like just in case someone from Blizzard ever watches my video. So my overall opinion of Diablo 4 is that it is very good. It is much better than Diablo 3. It has great potential, and I'm hoping that they listen to the feedback of the players, because I feel like the players know what they want. Many of you guys over the like 40 plus hours that I've been streaming have come up with very poignant and interesting things to say about the game. And if you guys put your feedback in and tell them what's going on and what to change, I feel like we will probably see some meaningful improvements. Just be aware that, like, when you request something, if you request something that's impossible, obviously it's not going to happen. Or if it's next to impossible, it's obviously not going to happen. But things like being able to zoom out further, it's totally doable. And you know, let's make our voices heard on that one, because I feel like just about everybody would like to zoom out just a little bit further than what they let us do. Trying to think if there's anything else, anything at all. The clan system. So I'm not 100% sure if the clan system has like more features that they're going to be adding in. But I would like to see more features added to the clan system, maybe a clan bank or something. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe even a guild hall that we can go to and gather at. That could be rather interesting. Maybe somewhere we can actually all see each other. Also, I would really like to see it so that, like, if I'm in a clan with a bunch of people and I'm running around doing quests, that you might prioritize, you know, like the other clan members to be in my lair, in my instance. Because, like, if I'm running a dungeon or something like that, or doing an area, and one of my friends is, like, sitting right there next to me, why can't I see them? Like, they're in my guild, they're on my friends list, you know, like, there should be some sort of prioritization there if, you know, we're, like, in the same clan. Which I can't imagine should really be that difficult. I think that's pretty much it. I may have left some things out, but for the most part, I mean, overall, I'm very pleased with Diablo 4. I wouldn't have played for 40 some odd hours if I wasn't. And somebody in chat actually said that at one point during my live stream. They were like, you know, he's been playing for like 40 hours straight. Like, you know, if he didn't enjoy the game, he definitely wouldn't be playing for 40 hours straight. And I guess that's a testament to the fact that I actually do really enjoy playing. Will the game have the longevity of Diablo 2 Resurrected? Who freaking knows? You know, who freaking knows? I don't know. I really don't. There are unique items in this game, just like in Diablo 2 Resurrected, and they're very rare. I've heard some people tell me that they've managed to get a hold of one or two of the unique items. They have things like Shaco and Windforce and Harlequin Crest and all sorts of cool stuff like that. You know how many I've found in the 40 some odd hours I've been playing? None. I've found 0. And I like that. I like that I've found 0. You know why? Because they're rare. They're hard to get. People are going to seek after them. And that is another point in Diablo 4's favor. Having items that are rare, that are hard to find, is something that is a good thing. People seek after Griffin's Eye diadem. It is a good item, and it is rare. And when you find one, you're excited, and you know you get up on top of the rooftop and you shout it out, you know, and rightfully so, because it's something cool. it's a accomplishment. You know, hey, I finally found a freaking griffin's eye, or like I found 2 griffin's eyes in one day. I can't believe it. I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket right now before I get struck by lightning. Like, you know, and you just feel so lucky that particular day because you found something really cool. You know what I mean? Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when it's just my impressions on Diablo 4. And do look forward to a lot more video content. I'm going to be putting out a whole lot of videos here soon. I've recorded a lot of footage, so do stay tuned.